We have tried in that committee to promote self-evaluation by judges and by state federal judiciaries, request each judge, each judiciary to devise time utilization and management and monitoring mechanisms and guidelines by judges. We have requested state and federal judiciaries to set targets for completion of cases classified as small claims, fast-track cases, complex cases, criminal cases, and normal civil cases, and monitor compliance. The National Judicial Council demands that reason be given for criminal cases not disposed of within the set target period, require each judiciary in the Performance Evaluation Committee, we require each judiciary to submit action plan and strategies for clearing backlog of civil cases pending for more than 3 years and criminal cases pending for more than 18 months. Each judiciary is requested to submit to an annual judicial system audit and survey of the effectiveness and efficiency of its judicial system. In regard to the case flow management policy, under the leadership of the Chief Justice, the judiciary has realized that it has to adopt measures designed to promote flexibility in handling of cases while reducing costs, delay, and other unnecessary burdens to litigants in the adjudication of cases. This is why courts in Nigeria has been encouraged to develop a case flow matrix as well as maintain a case tracking register to ensure effective management of the flow of cases within their respective jurisdictions. The flow matrix and case tracking register could be manual, electronic, or both. Then moving to transparency and anti-corruption policy, the National Judicial Policy recognizes that the greatest and most damaging challenge to administration of justice is corruption, and that tackling this challenge must go beyond mere exhortation and sentiments. The policy, therefore, will ensure that multifaceted strategies and guidelines that will ensure transparency in the administration of justice are put in place. One can go on and off, but I'll come to this conclusion before my 10 minutes expire, and I'll assure you that there will be a postscript, but that will come later. Now we come to the role of senior advocates in the administration of justice and nation building. Regrettably, now I can come to a personal level. Regrettably, the first senior advocates we had, 2 of them, were appointed in 1975. For 2 years, there were no senior advocates appointed. In 1978, we had an inflow of a number, very small number of senior advocates. So I begin to wonder whether something has gone right or wrong, I don't know which one, because they appointed senior advocates in 1975. Then a number of us were appointed judges in 1976. Another batch was appointed in 1977. Between 1975 and 1978, there were no appointments of judges. And there were appointments of judges, but no senior advocates. And I believe maybe it's because they saw us as very special people. That between 1976 and 1977, they thought it wise to make those of us in that group very highly intelligent. That they brought us into the judiciary and thereafter opened doors for brilliant people to become senior advocates instead of making them judges. My complaint is this. In 1976, when I was appointed a judge, my salary, maybe I should hide my face to say it, my salary was 1,000 naira per month. 1,000 naira per month. From 1978, when you gentlemen became senior advocates, you have become billionaires. Yet we who earned 1,000 naira per month are still here. So I will implore you to make me senior advocates again. Make me senior advocate so that I too will be earning billions and billions and billions of naira, whilst my learned colleagues are struggling to earn a salary of maybe 6 million per annum. I'm sure it would have been a delight for us to become senior advocates, but apparently it's too late. I know that my learned friend, my learned brother, my learned friend, Professor Odita, one of the most excellent jurists in Nigeria and in England, will like to tell us I'm not sure if I'm right, because I know Professor Odita has an obligation to be a deputy judge in England. Am I right? In England, it is mandatory for a QC to operate as a judge. Is that correct? I'm sorry. Yeah, but a judge is a judge, part-time or no part-time, because I've seen their reports in the law reports. I've seen their judgments in the law reports. Where am I going? I think it is time that we begin to compel our senior advocates to sit as judges occasionally. And I leave that to my Lord the Chief Justice to consider. The reason why I am suggesting this is that when we look at the role senior advocates must perform, we must include that role that will make it mandatory for them to participate in the quick disposition of cases that are pending before many of the courts, free of charge. I think that time has come. so that, at least for a period, the courts will be freed of unnecessary congestion. Cases will move more speedily. The challenge I am making here today is that, having narrated all that I have breached, the question that arises is this: what is the role for senior advocates in Nigeria today? I'm sure that as leaders of the bar, innumerable roles are there for senior advocates of Nigeria to perform, apart from the need for them to perform a front-rank role in ensuring quick dispensation of justice. There is also need for BOSAN to join in the protection of the national judicial policy and ensure that that policy, by its implementation, will help to promote not only the dignity, worth, and quality of the bar and the bench, but also to ensure digging deep in enhancing quality in the growth of Nigerian law. BOSAN has a duty and a responsibility to protect Nigerian law, to protect the application of Nigerian law, and also a duty and responsibility to free Nigerian law and its jurisprudence and literature from stagnation. Anybody who cares to take some time to read legal literature in Nigeria will find that there is indeed stagnation. We continue to repeat old principles numerous times, right up to our highest court. That, in my opinion, should stop, because our jurisprudence should be refreshed, new ideas must be brought in, and stagnation must be taken away. The death of law journals and legal literature is a matter of concern. Publication of Nigerian law books, because of its scarcity, is a challenge. And these are the challenges which I dare put before BOSAN, because it is what they should do to play a leadership role in refreshing the jurisprudence, our jurisprudence, in refreshing our laws. Administration of justice and nation building must grow hand in hand. Where administration of justice is weak, there will also be a compensating weakness in the growth of our nation. I thank you very much. And I dare say I thank myself for coming to Lagos.
Thank you very much, Honorable Justice Emmanuel Ayola, for the National Judicial Policy directives and highlights of the work of the National Judicial Council on the administration of justice. Now, it gives me the greatest pleasure to invite the first female senior advocate of Nigeria, in the person of Chief Folake Solanke, CON, SAN, for her very, very, very short contribution. Thank you very much, ma. I know you won't take more than 5 minutes.
First of all, may I thank everyone for the very generous encomium and courtesies extended to me. I thank the Honorable Justice Ayola for having spent 35 minutes. So that's a precedent for me. And if I'm not allowed to spend 35 minutes, I would consider it an act of discrimination. I salute the CJN, the Honorable Justice Onogem, for having brought the supremacy of the Supreme Court to this event. I also thank him for his remarks, which focused on excellence. I was looking forward to seeing the Honorable Justice Awugie, and I was very distressed to hear that there was an accident and she's in hospital. Very distressed about that, and I wish her very full and speedy recovery. I salute our learned friend, Professor Fidelis Osita, for the brilliance of his presentation. In the year 2011, I read a paper by him on arbitration in Africa. So having listened to him today, I can say that he's a genuine double silk. Now, Justice Ayola, having spoken for 35 minutes, you don't expect to bring an 86-year-old lady from Ibadan and then say she cannot say what she has to say. I thank Chief Fagbongwe, SAN. I thank Professor Ajogu, SAN, for having included me in the list of panelists. I hope they will not regret it. However, I'm very happy to be among the panelists. I welcome back respectfully the Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria, and what I said in your absence, I will repeat. I thank your Lordship for having focused on excellence in your remarks, and we shall follow your words of wisdom. I take this opportunity to express my delight concerning the brilliance of your Lordship's, that's the CJN's, lecture on appraisal of judicial standards at the Chief Judge of Lagos State event last month. Thank you very much. Now, I salute all the judges who are here present, and also all my learned friends of the silk and guests, if there are any. All I've said so far is protocol. So I'm now going to present my paper. The title of the lecture is strategic and germane. That is, the evolving role of senior advocates of Nigeria in the administration of justice and nation building. The law, as we know, is the very foundation of nation building, because without the law, there's no nation. Therefore, whatever we say about the administration of justice is true for nation building, because the law, including the Constitution, is the legal infrastructure for nation building. Let us consider just a few of the desiderata which must be applied by senior advocates of Nigeria as we perform our role in nation building. First, we must ensure that we elevate suitable persons to the prestigious rank of senior advocate of Nigeria. They must be truly learned, as we have heard. And being learned, edest, means you know the law. So anybody who boasts to be a learned person must be sure of his or her legal knowledge. Also, the question of integrity, elocution, superior advocacy, and of course, impeccable character. We must elevate those who will bring honor to the rank and not dishonor and shame. I'm so enamored of the dictum that lawyers are ministers in the temple of justice. That's such a powerful description of what we are. Makes our work sacrosanct because we are in the temple of justice. Thus, we must always be guided by that eternal description of lawyers. Therefore, I'm always embarrassed when some members of the public complain to me that they have just watched a senior advocate of Nigeria either in a discussion or in an interview, and they were asking me, how did he or she attain that rank? Because of the disappointing, let me use soft words, disappointing performance of that particular senior advocate of Nigeria in the discussion or in the interview. Therefore, we must emphasize that we need people who are going to do justice to that rank. Having said so, we must also make sure, and I respectfully agree with the lecturer, we must look after the junior lawyers because they are the next generation for the profession. And as I said at the daily additional essence event, the question of pupillage must be addressed because having qualified, they are entitled to payment. And lawyers are not slaves. It's only slaves who are not paid at all or who are paid inadequately. Therefore, when I attend conferences, young lawyers come to me in tears, complaining that their bosses do not pay them because they are young lawyers straight from law school. it is very wrong. And I think all of us must agree that young lawyers must be adequately paid. And also, lawyers, senior advocates of Nigeria must support their local branches. We mustn't distance ourselves from our local branches, because we would help them to grow. We nurture them and advise them. I commend the planning committee of this event for having, because they have really dealt with the situation that is current in Nigeria. And I thank them for I thank the body of senior advocates for inaugurating a subcommittee on continuing legal education. I benefited a lot last century, that is, when the Ibadan branch started continuing legal education program. And Chief Olisa Chukura, SAN, of blessed memory, was in charge. And I used to look forward to going to the event. So when we attend the local branches meetings, you can advise them to establish continuing legal education committee and encourage both the inner and outer bar members to suggest recommendations for topics to be articulated. I think I should just have a glass of water for a minute. I'm grateful. Thank you very much. I think at 86, I'm entitled to water. The local branches, they need your attendance at meetings. And that is the way we can encourage them and see that they're doing things as it should be done. I would like to just remind the body of senior advocates that they should consider themselves like the patriots. I don't know whether there are some here who remember them, the patriots, Chief Rotimi Williams and Professor Mwabueze. I think they were members. And they used to make statements on crucial issues in the society. I respectfully urge the body of senior advocates of Nigeria that our voice must be heard on national issues. Right now, I want to ask you, what has the body of senior advocates of Nigeria done or said about, one, corruption, two, cattle ranches? What has the body of senior advocates of Nigeria said? What have we said or done about Leah Sharibu, the girl who has been taken away into the wilderness of the abductors? What have we done? Have we said anything? What have we done about the 100+ Chibok girls who are still missing? Have we ever made a statement about it or done anything about it. It should not be only Dr. Obi Ezekwesili. She should not be the only protester. I don't ask us to go on the streets, but we must be heard about what is going on in this country and issues which can tear this country apart. That is what I regard as being relevant in nation building. It is when we look after when we let people know what we feel about problems in our country. Now, I have commended the body for establishing the Continuing Legal Education Committee, and the subcommittee has done an excellent job in bringing us here. And I would respectfully appeal to members that whenever there is this annual lecture, we should make sure we reserve this day for the lecture. I think now we should also, whatever I say about body of senior advocates involves me. We should establish a committee for legislative awareness so that we can advise government about laws which should be repealed, laws which should be amended, or laws which should be promulgated. For instance, the whistleblowing policy, upon which I gave a lecture last November for Gadzama, is only being administered on ministerial policy. It's not, there's no law. And when you consider, excuse me, I'm just recovering from flu, so please forgive me. Now, the people who are in charge, I don't know how much contact we have with lawyers who are members, who are legislators. But in any case, we should establish a subcommittee on legislative awareness. And also, we should establish a committee on Know Your Right program. The people do not know their rights. So let us see whether we can help in this regard. I mean, people are being stopped on the street by the police, and they are being harassed for nothing at all. And people don't even do. Well, I can follow precedent. Previous speakers have received papers. So, my learned friend has thanked me. I hope he won't regret it. Oh dear. All right, let me just summarize. Now, we have to, I'm happy that the president of the Nigerian Bar Association has been invited, because we are statutory members of that association, which has an elected president. We must find a way of working in collaboration with the NBA. And I'm happy that the president has been invited and is going to be represented by our learned friend Idigwe, SAN. That's very, very important. I also would like just to, again, remind ourselves, what have we done or said about illegal immigration, which is taking Nigerian youth through the Sahara Desert, where they are treated like they suffer agonies. And when they escape Libya, they end as corpses in the Mediterranean Sea. What has the body of senior advocates said or done about that? Because our youth are being traumatized, are being used as slaves. And a CNN reporter came and was able to travel from Benin to very near where they disappear into the Sahara without anybody stopping that bus. So what are we doing about that? Only last week, they had boats on the Mediterranean Sea, and they said, where are these immigrants from? Nigeria was mentioned. The boat was adrift on the ocean for days. Last week, Spain took some. This week, they still have others. Let us be conscious of the fact that we need to protect our young people. Now, I think that with what we've heard from our lecturer today, we will be better prepared to go back and see what we can do within our own profession. And I was happy to hear that in 2003, there was an attempt to abolish the Queen's Counsel, which failed. So the effort to abolish SAN has also failed in Nigeria and will continue to fail. Well, I think that with all I've said just now, I want us to make sure that we are not silent on critical issues in Nigeria. We must not be silent. I thank you for having listened. Well, we are all involved in nation building once we are temples, once we are ministers in the temple of justice.
Thank you very much, Chief Mrs. Folanke Sholanke. She has, in her intervention, highlighted the importance of law as an infrastructure for nation building. And she indeed raised very, very thought-provoking matters that she will want this body to take on board. We thank you for your insightful views. We also thank you for not pressing charges of discrimination against us. It is now my pleasure to ask Chief Bayo Ojo, former Attorney General, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, to come forward for his intervention, and thank him in advance for keeping to time. Thank you very much. You have 5 minutes, sir. Thank you very much.
My Lord, the Honorable, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me first of all commend His Lordship, the Chief Justice, for the reforms which he's been carrying out since he took over the mantle of that office. I do recall that some time ago he issued a practice direction regarding arbitration cases in the various courts in the country. And only yesterday I saw something on the internet where he also has directed magistrates in various jurisdictions, particularly where there are no high court judges, to ensure that once a month they visit police stations to release those who are in detention on bail. This is very commendable indeed. I want to thank you, sir. And also let me, with your permission, pay tribute to two other octogenarians who are here, apart from Justice Ayola and Chief Mrs. Sholanke. I'm talking of the former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Prince Bola Ajibola, who came all the way from Abeokuta. And also Professor A.B. Kasumu, one of the most brilliant academics of all times. I do recall that when I was appointed Attorney General, Prince Bola Ajibola sent for me, and then he told me, he said, I was in that office for 6 years, 3 months, and 20 days. In that period, I slept only on the couch or on the side of the bed. So he said you wouldn't have the luxury of sleeping on your bed fully. But that who knows, at the end of the day, you might be lucky to end up at the International Law Commission. The two prophecies came to pass. Thank you very much, sir. Initially, I was given 10 minutes, and later I was told the 10 minutes is now 5 minutes. I then said, do I have the liberty of dividing to say what I want in the 10 minutes, since I cannot give my presentation, and I've been told I could do that. Well, I want to commend Professor Dita for his very brilliant presentation, and also those who have spoken before me. And because of the time constraint, I actually have the temptation to do what a classmate of mine did years ago when we were in the university. He is a South African, and we were writing our mid-sessional exams in our first year. And then there was a question that said, I gave a quotation and ended up and said, do you agree? And he was very mischievous, so he simply wrote, I agree, and then submitted his exam questions. So I'm actually tempted to say that I agree with all what has been said by the guest speaker and the discussants before me, and then to take my seat. But because of time constraints, I will just, first of all, want to seek for legal advice on an issue that came up shortly before I came into the hall this morning, and also read my conclusion in the paper I intended to present. Now, when I was coming in this morning, I got a call from a family friend of mine who was holidaying in the UK. He's an avid horse racer. He likes betting on horses. And last week, he took a vacation with his wife to go to the UK. So while there, he went out one day for horse racing and came back, and they rented an apartment for the holiday. So he said, when he opened the door, as he was trying to walk in, his wife gave him a very dirty slap. So he was astounded and was saying, look, sweetheart, what exactly is going on here? And the wife said, who is Jane? So he said, oh, Jane. He said, that's the name of the horse I betted on last week. The wife said, well, while you were away, I was looking for some money. I then rummaged through your jacket, and I found a piece of paper with the name Jane on it. And I thought it was your girlfriend. So he said, no, it wasn't my girlfriend. That is just the name of a horse I betted on at the horse racing. And then the wife went to prepare dinner, And he then decided to go to the bathroom to freshen up before dinner and left his phone on the dining table in the apartment. So while the wife was in the kitchen, the phone rang, and she came out to pick the phone. She saw the name on the phone was Jane calling, and then she picked the phone, and the caller said, "Sweetheart," and started talking. He just said, "Stupid, this is his wife," and then she put the phone off. So she casually went back to the kitchen and took a frying pan, and then went into the bedroom to see the husband, and then banged the frying pan on his head. And this, my family friend, just passed out. So eventually some neighbors came and took him to the hospital. So when he came round, he found his wife sitting by his bedside. And then he said, "Look, what is all this nonsense about? Why did you do what you did?" And the wife said, "While you were in the room, your horse, Jane, that you betted on, called." And that was why she decided to hit the frying pan on his head. He then said he wanted to brief a senior advocate to take up the case for him when he comes back. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's up to you whether you think I should take up that case when he comes. Now, my conclusion in my paper, I quoted something which John W. Davis said some time ago. He said, "True, we lawyers build no bridges, we raise no towers, we construct no engines, we paint no pictures, unless as amateurs for our own principal amusement. There is a little of all that we do which the eye of man can see, but we smooth out difficulties, we relieve stress, we correct mistakes, we take up other men's burdens, and by our efforts, we make it possible for peaceful life of men in a peaceful state. Nations are built by exemplary men and women who," end of quote, please. Nations are built by exemplary men and women who do extraordinary things. Successful nations do not happen by accident. They are built by men of vision, strong will, and resolve to do the right things all the time. However, nation building will be a mirage in the absence of the rule of law. Therefore, senior advocates must continue to strive to promote the rule of law and an independent judiciary at all times. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief Bayojo. I believe the next time we hold this event, we'll probably hold it in Ibadan. Because apparently speakers from Ibadan, our reverse speakers, would rather want to take time to explain themselves considering the distance they've had to travel. But I know Chief Bayojo is resident in Abuja too, and I just want to appreciate him for the time he has spent. In saying that, let me also, on behalf of the organizers, apologize if we seem to be putting our discussants under pressure. I'm sure that they will understand, and I'm sure the members of the body too will understand that we are indeed pressured for time. Having said that, another person, the president of the MBA, here represented by Mr. Tony Digbe, will make his intervention too. And we are giving him 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria, my Lords Justices of the Supreme Court, my Lords Justices of the Court of Appeal, all other judges here present, my learned brothers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I bring you greetings from the President of the Nigerian Bar Association, A.B. Mahmood, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Unfortunately, he's unable to be here today because he just came back from Bangkok yesterday and has to be in Abuja for the section on business law of the MBA conference that is going on there. But he has sent me to bring a message of hope to us today. The lecture by Fidelis Auditor, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, QC, may seem to have painted a slightly depressing picture about the state of the profession and the role of senior advocates. But within that paper are suggestions or ideas that could be picked. And what the president of the MBA has told me to tell you is that the MBA has a reform strategy. And the reform strategy is aimed on two themes. One, to create a brave new bar, and two, to generate reform in the system. In terms of reforms in the system, the MBA set up the Legal Practitioners Regulatory Review Commission. And that commission has already come out with that committee has come out with a report. And that report has considered many of the pitfalls that were mentioned by the lecturer today. The issue of having an independent regulator for the profession, including the issue of an independent means of determining who will become a senior advocate. All those issues are already addressed in the draft bill. The bill also considers the idea of creating another level of recognitions called certified specialist within the profession, and that will reduce the pressure, hopefully, of people wanting to be senior advocates and then leave senior advocates to only the very best. The bill also considers the idea of a formal pupillage training program that will be supervised by pupillage masters with a pupillage manual, etc. There are lots of reforms that are already in process. In terms of the bar itself, a committee was also set up headed by Yusuf Ali, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, to look at the MBA constitution and try and make suggestions for reform, particularly in terms of the regulatory role of the MBA, the representation role of the MBA, as well as public interest, some of the public interest issues that have been mentioned, and also the administrative structure of the MBA. Regarding the financial and administrative structure, KPMG was also engaged by the MBA, and they have made their reports, and effort is ongoing to implement those reforms. In ending, I will just urge that we all support the effort at reform. And I would like to quote from Sir David Clementi, who led a similar reform effort in the UK for the profession. But he did say, and I would like to quote, "Reform will not be easy. Whilst there is pressure for change from consumer groups and also from many lawyers, reform will be resisted by other lawyers who are comfortable with the system as it is. Lawyers who are opposed to the reforms in this review will either argue that I am mistaken or have failed to understand the special characteristics that set the law apart, or call for further research and consultation, kicking reform into the long grass. Changes will require significant political commitment, partly to meet the expected criticism from some lawyers, and partly because reform will need primary legislation, which requires scarce parliamentary time. And I think that that statement basically summarizes the dilemma that we are in now. A reform bill is already in place. And I should say that BOSAN, which is the body of senior advocates, actually instigated the entire process by initially appointing a committee to review the Legal Practitioners Act. And then the NBA took it over, expanded it. Now there's a draft bill. The question is, what role are we playing? We need to examine ourselves. Are we one of those opposing reform? Are we one of those arguing that we are comfortable with the system as it is? Or are we progressives? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Idigbe, for your short presentation. Yes, it is clear that the body of senior advocates of Nigeria set up that committee to ensure reforms that will engender administration of justice and nation building. We've come to the time for audience participation. And first of all, I'd like to call His Lordship, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, for his comments. He is not replying anybody because he's not on trial. May I have a round of applause for Honorable Justice Walter Onogen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, please. Many issues have been raised. I must say first and foremost that I'm very, very, very happy to be here. I love my profession, and I believe you too, you do so. And that we are all committed to improving it, not only improving it, but making sure that it never suffer the kind of decadence it is confronted with right now. So every hand must be on deck anyway. I welcome all criticisms and suggestions for reform from all and sundry. Time is limited. So what we make use of, what we do within the time, the limited time, really matters at the end of the day. But I believe in the simple ABCs of solving problems. I don't believe in complicated issues. I believe in the ABCs of every problem. How does it arise? How do we confront it? How will you understand what I am saying or what I'm trying to do? So it's a problem of communication. So the simpler it is, the better for everybody. Now, I heard of the hearing notice issue, sending text messages on Saturday. Let me tell you that when I took over, I was the first Chief Justice of Nigeria to visit the record section of the litigation department. And so they told me. And what I found there is unimaginable. The whole place, all the files, the records were on the floor. Yes. So there's no way you can determine the ages of the cases. And in one corner, large corner of the listing, you had the political matters, the files, everything there. So what do? They said, oh, we have started the digitalization of the records and all that. So then I asked the question, who is in charge? Oh, it was coming. I said, good. By the way, do you have any, when he came, I said, now, do you have any backup? Do you have any backup plan? How far have you gone with this thing? The answer is nothing, actually. No backup plan, no nothing. So I said, okay, I am from the village. I'm a very village man, native man. So I have a problem, files on the floor. What do I do with it first? I want shelves. Let the files move from the floor to the shelves. And in order of the cases, that is Supreme Court SC/1/2000/2, in that order. So when we now come to talking about putting it in the cloud, we know where to go and pick what we have and putting it there. So right now, all the files are on the shelves. We can now know all these cases talk about cases haven't been there for many years. They are true, but there was no way by which they could sort them out because they were damned together. So the problem then was when you now pressurize, they now go in maybe on the weekends and try to sort out your case or on consideration, maybe. But I'm not saying so. But they will bring out your case and it will be listed. And I don't buy into that. So with that now, we've been able to now know, can look around and you see what you have. So I now insisted that cases must now be listed in order of seniority. Now that we know what we have and what we finish with. So right now, as I'm talking to you, the Supreme Court calendar is up to 2020. We've listed cases up to 2020. And I've given directives that if you were given a text message, you see, a text message on a Saturday, maybe you are not aware of the fact that we have weekly course list on the internet. Every week you go to the internet, you will see the cases listed. But I have last week instructed them, last 2 weeks, given instructions that it should not be weekly, it should be monthly. The course list should be monthly, so that if you visit the website or the platform, you will be able to know before even they send you a text message or any hearing notice in whatever form, you will be able to know what cases are expected or which of the cases belong to you within the month. So that is being addressed. Well, when you look back in history, the history of the judiciary of this nation, you will find out that now I'm going on the registry. You will find out that until recently, maybe in the 80s, you didn't have graduates in the registries of the courts. They were not there. You had elementary 6, then later on you had school set, who were now trained and became registrars and things like that. And later on, in the 80s, we now started having those who read public administration being employed in the judiciary, in the registry. These are facts you can relate with, you can find out, and you will know. So you started with something which has been built to a certain stage, and then you can't just have it metamorphosed into the ultimate, which we are all aiming at. That is in terms of judicial administration. But I am through the NJI, which we are upgrading. I wanted to, anyway, I am trying my best to professionalize judicial administration so that the registries of the courts will have better manpower, trained in judicial administration, and NJI will be in a position to even award certificates. It will soon be affiliated to one of the universities. So it's an ongoing exercise, but I promise you that a lot has been done, but much more will continue to be done. So when you have us ask you in court, when did you file your papers and all that, it is because we feel for the lawyers. We really feel for the lawyers who had to come all the way to the Supreme Court, for instance, and then to do their matter only for one reason or the other, because of the lapses in the registry, the matter couldn't go on, and you have to go back. So sometimes we will sit down there, we may stand down the matter and ask that they go and fetch whatever paper that has been filed but is not before us, so as to enable us hear you. It is not our responsibility to do that, but if we don't do it, the human aspect of it will not be satisfactory. So we are not in the registry, we are not supposed to do the registry work, but we cannot help it. And that is because we are having people there who, for one reason or the other, are not pulling their weight or are not doing what they are expected to do. So these are challenges we all face, and we ask that you continue to bear with us. And I know we will improve on it. The question of cost. It used to be very, very ridiculous before now. Cost 50,000 naira. That was very high. Yes, in the Supreme Court. It's true. So in one of the conferences, the issue was raised. That was during the time of the now late Honorable Justice Dairum Mustafa. And then because I had been pressurizing him on this matter, so he said, Walter, let me have a draft practice direction. I said, thank you. So as he went back to his chambers, I followed him with a draft. Are you? I said, yes, he's been ready. You know, it took almost 6 months later. I misplaced that one. So I had to give him another copy. That is how it came about that instead of saying awarding maximum cost, we have minimum cost. If it is for a full trial, a full hearing of an appeal, a minimum of maybe 200 or 500 or whatever is the minimum, which gives us the room to award more, depending on the case. And in it too, we included cost payable by counsel in appropriate cases, personally. Now, these are measures that we are trying to bring into sanitizing the system. Because you see, we have the professionals, as professionals, we have grown bigger than the profession. We have become ungovernable. We are no more subject to the rules by our own conduct. That is, we have to come back to the realities of the situation. We must be law-abiding. We must command respect, not demand it, by whatever our action, our attitude. We have to, that's why I said that you have to start from our mindset. We change our mindset. These other things will just follow. Because unless you agree that you have a problem, I don't think you can ever have a solution. The problem will be there, because you will be assuming that it's not a problem. So the cost aspect of it and the rules of the various courts, it is unfortunately the attitude of some judges towards these things. That is what is compounding the matters. But if we are able to enforce cost, make sure that appropriate cost is awarded, it will discourage a lot of these frivolous applications and our attitude towards delays and things like that. Because if you are punished, your client is punished, you are made to pay punitive cost, you will think twice tomorrow when you are coming back about any matter that you will bring before the court. If we have decided matters and you have so many legal materials on it, yet you still come back to the court, to the Supreme Court for that matter with the same thing, it becomes a problem. We cannot continue in that scenario and expect miracles. It will not be progress. We will always be bogged down by these things. You talk about appointment of senior advocates of Nigeria. Yes. And my Lord Ayola has stated it. In England, as QC, you have a duty to be acting judge. And the bench there is populated from that rank. That is a large percentage of this thing. And in Nigeria, yes, we have challenges in the judiciary. But let me ask you this question. Which of us here, seated here, who was ever in private practice, was never approached at one point in time or the other in his career to accept appointment to the bench, and he turned it down? Which of you? All of us. Some accepted, some declined. You decline because you have chosen a way you think you should go. Now, let me tell you, I don't want to take you too far. I am giving all of us a challenge. I want you to remember that it took a lot of character for professors to accept to be appointed judges. When Achike, now late, both late now, and Nikki Toby accepted appointment to the bench as professors, their colleagues were mad. There was nothing they didn't say or to them, that they have demeaned the position, they have done this, they have done that. But look at how rich the bench became. And from there, others have followed. So the challenge I throw to you all, to all of us, is that any day that a senior advocate of Nigeria, driven by service for his nation, accepts appointment to the High Court bench, listen to me, it's a laugh, you will laugh it, but you will not forget what I'm saying, because it is the truth. Then, that is the beginning of the strengthening of the Nigerian bench. That is the beginning of that rethink. You see, because we feel so big, we think, in fact, even the way some of you address the bench itself, you look down upon the judges. Yes, it's the truth. You see, because let's talk to each other man to man. You look down on the judges, but you forget one thing, that in the system, educational system, every law student is above average. Every law student, because it's not the same marks that an art student scores that will earn him admission into the faculty of law. So every law student is above average. And then he graduates and you graduate. You come out, some decide to be in any branch, some in the ministry, so everywhere. Then suddenly, because you have continued in private practice, and some branch out, and you become a senior advocate of Nigeria. And you think by virtue of that position, the other one no longer has any gray matter in his head. You think about it yourself. I don't think you are thinking right. No, it can't be so. So if we are able to think along this line, I think and I believe a lot will be done for the Nigerian judiciary and the practice of law, for that matter. You see, because being on the bench demands a lot. It's a sacrifice. Service demands humility. So wherever you are, if you don't have humility, you can never serve. You can never serve. Whatever position you want, because you are a senior advocate, and you don't have humility, it is not service that is driving you. It must be something else. So that is talking to you as Walter Onogin. Conference. So we have conferences, then you now have, we go to court, where the conferences should be during vacation. Hey, you look at the life of a judge, particularly with the political matters all over. Nobody wants to do justice to his fellow human being, except he goes to court. Even when he gets to court, you are not ready to accept what the court says. Whatever decision the court gives, it must have been compromised one way or the other. So you create these problems. And we are there, like this election, it has started already. Pre-election matters, this one said, oh, Congress here, Congress no there, no everywhere, parallel, diagonal, perpendicular, all over the place. Good. I will come back to the judicial officers. And we walk, like in the Supreme Court. We walk. We walk, and we're almost dropping dead. You see, these are the stark realities on ground. So when the time now comes for you to go on vacation, you say, no, whatever you have to do should be done within that time that you have. In other words, you shouldn't have no quiet moments. You see? And some say, why don't you take leave? Let me tell you one thing you have not realized. I was in private practice, very active practice indeed. Let me tell you the truth. If legal vacation is abolished in this country, you are the first to suffer. You, the legal practitioners, are the ones to suffer. Because if me, in my court, any of the justices there, 2 or 3, go on vacation, they are on leave, 1 month or something, it will affect paneling, okay? So cases that could have been heard will have to be adjusted. If it is a high court, you have cases in very many courts. At the same time, your diaries are always full. So 2, 3 courts, judges on vacation. Meanwhile, you yourself, you will not have time to have that vacation which you really need. That's why I said some will die. Yes, because this court is on vacation, you are not going there quite all right. But you are attending to other courts that are sitting. By the time you finish going around, this one that went on vacation has come back, and your cases are still there. So think about these things. There are reasons for what we are doing, what has been done. All we need to do is think about them. And if there are some ways of amending certain things, bring out the suggestions, we will amend them. But otherwise, look, you don't have time to rest. And if the courts don't go on vacation within that period, most of you, that is the time that you have time to think about yourselves. 99% of your problems are created by others for you to solve. And you spend all that time thinking of solutions and leaving your own 1% unsolved, unattended to. Some of you take that time to attend to those personal problems. Some even don't. Some are overwhelmed throughout the period. And it costs a lot to produce a lawyer. And it's very painful to lose one in the circumstances. So, well, I think you've taken much of. Thank you very much.
Oh. That was the Chief Justice of Nigeria giving us his eyeball-to-eyeball comments. Nobody shall reply him. Now, may I invite 3 people in the audience to make their comments. First, Chief Wole Olanipekun, please come forward. 1 minute.
I will try to make it a minute plus. I thought we would have called the Honorable the Chief Justice last, because, as the Yorubas will say, it is the biggest of the masquerades that dances last. And he would have covered the field because of some of the things he said. But I just want to comment on some areas. My brother, the guest lecturer, you made mention of bullying. Some of us seeing the rank of senior advocates as bullying tool, and you also refer to what you call cowboy practice. Some years ago, a very senior member of the bar who was retiring from practice, and he said one thing. It sank. He said in his career, he was never rude to any judge, and that no judge was ever rude to him. I thought when I will retire in a few years' time, I'll be able to say that. But of recent, we've seen some of us not just bullying the junior members of the bar, bullying the bench, but bullying ourselves. I've been a victim, and unfortunately, I will not be able to say when I'm retiring that I've never been bullied. But then, my Lord, the Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria said, let us talk eyeball to eyeball. I cannot imagine, because when you argue at the bar, the legal practice, litigation can be very sumptuous, very interesting. But when it becomes abusive, you make your point, you cite cases to court, then all your opponent does, and it's a senior advocate of Nigeria, it starts abusing you. I've been a victim over and over, and Professor Ajogo will bear me witness. And you don't fight with a pig, because a pig, you know where a pig dwells. And the pig is always very joyful when you enter into tango with it. And if I, Wole Olanipekun, and I try replying, the next thing you see tomorrow is that Wole Olanipekun does this in court, We have to caution ourselves. Courtesy to our colleagues on the bench, or at the bar, courtesy to the people, to our colleagues at the outer bar, and courtesy to the judiciary. Then my auntie, she said about the role of the bar, the Nigerian Bar Association. And I'm happy the NBA president is represented here. We are fast losing grip of what the NBA stands for. I'm happy a former president, former Principal Ajibola is here. It's not for, MBA presidency is not for bread and butter. It's not for you to go on picnics, on errands. I've been there. It's a very hot seat. If you know you cannot perform to expectation, if you know you cannot face powers and principalities eyeball to eyeball, don't go there. And I give an example. In 2002 or thereabout, I was going to Kaduna to attend an MBA function as the MBA president. Radio announcement. Vice President Atiku has taken over the house, the official quarters of the Chief Justice of Nigeria. I made a U-turn. The next office to where I got to was that of Deloye. He's still alive. I knocked at his office. I was carrying all along the MBA letter papers because I could issue statement anywhere. And I asked Deloye, please can I use your secretary? And I gave, on behalf of MBA, Article 48 hours to vacate the house. And he vacated. This Justice Uwais called me. He said, my president, thank you. So it is the MBA that has to defend the bar, that has to defend the bench, and also that has to, the MBA's duty. And we have, for the past few years, successive MBA presidents have been senior advocates of Nigeria. So by extension, BOSAN has been presenting MBA. So it is the MBA that will also forge the Nigerian Renaissance. It's not a question of saying we are talking of draft bills. And about the draft bills you are talking about, the MBA president is talking about, we must not sell the MBA. Because we have gone through the MBA, through the draft bill at the BOSAN meetings. It's a question of we now saying we are abdicating responsibility in the certain areas, the body of benchers, appointment of senior advocates. We are calling people from outside to come and help us manage our profession. No, we have to think about it. And lastly, I want to believe my Lord, the Chief Justice, is here. For the Supreme Court, we have to commend the Supreme Court. The Court of Appeal also, we have to commend them. But I think also the thing has to go down. Because when we are talking of the ethics, when we are talking of practice, when we are talking of traditions, of ethos and pathos, I think the judiciary is one. And the legal profession is also one. When we get to the Supreme Court, the courtesy is there. Not because you are here, you respect the bar. The Court of Appeal does the same thing. But a few, and I want to say a few, of our laws on the High Court bench, some of the things they do, the way, the time they sit, you sit at 11, you come to the court, no apologies, no courtesies, nothing. And my Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, is part of the things you have to look into. My Lord, I hope I have not spent more than 1 minute. If I've done, please apologize.
All right, from this side, Mr. Uwa.
Thank you very much. I won't talk about discrimination. I just want to make a few comments. The lecturer spoke about some of the criteria about appointment being quantitative. At the time that we started applying, it used to be 1 Supreme Court, 4 Court of Appeal, 6 High Court, or 2 Supreme Court, 4 Court of Appeal, or 6 Supreme Court. Now, I don't know what has changed. Now that in the last few years, you must have 6 Supreme Court, or now you have 4 Supreme Court. That is contributing to the congestion that we have in the appellate courts. Something needs to be done about that so that, like they said, let's look at the quality rather than the quantity. More importantly, we note that in some other climes, people don't go to court for election petitions. It is because of the inherent fraud in our system that you've had this growing jurisprudence about election petition. It's simply because people cheat. Now we have a situation where preference and priority is given to those kinds of cases. Now, because of the unfair and unjust attack on the judiciary that they are slowing down corruption cases, we're also seeing that same pattern of giving preference to EFCC cases. Why are those cases more important than the other cases? Why are they more important maybe than the murder cases? So you then have a situation where unknowingly you are growing you're growing a band of people who are the only people who would have the requisite number of cases, because you've made it quantitative, to apply to be senior advocates or to apply to be judges. If this trend continues, you find that in the next couple of years, only those who are doing either INEC cases or EFCC cases have the numbers. It's something that we need to look at properly. And then again, you have a situation where you have a rule that if you are not a partner in a law firm or you don't own a law firm of your own, you shouldn't apply to be a senior advocate. I don't know where we got that from. At the time when we were growing up, we saw the Mr. Shofundes of this world who were in the chambers of people like Chief F.R.A. Williams, and they applied from there, and they've given a wonderful account of themselves. And we are talking about a situation where we want the profession to grow. We want to have firms where you have 500 partners. And these days you keep having a situation where there's a fragmentation of law firms just because people want to apply to become senior advocates. It's something that I think we need to deal with very, very urgently. And I'd like to talk about a few more things very quickly. We have a situation where we are talking about problems with the administration of justice, but we still have this nagging problem of Okafor and Nweke. And you have a situation where somebody has done a case for 20 years. It gets to the Supreme Court, and the issue is as to whether a lawyer put his name, and because of that, a matter that has been on for 20 years is struck out. And then again, the twin of that is a stamp and seal. I've seen several processes by lawyers in England. They signed Norton Rose and Co. Those processes are not any less potent than the processes that we have in Nigeria. Why should we build a jurisprudence around Okafor and Nweke? And I would say, the appellate courts, especially the Supreme Court, they are the custodian of the role of legal practitioners. So they can summon the chief registrar of the Supreme Court, bring the roll. Is this person's name on the roll? Why should we have a jurisprudence on this Okafor and Nweke, this thing? And we are saying that it will discourage quacks. It doesn't really discourage quacks. And the stamp and seal, we say it will discourage quacks. First of all, those stamp and seals can actually be forged. If you know about Oluwole, you know that whatever stamp and seal you have can be forged. Now we're giving work to printers. We can have an app where all the names of legal practitioners is on that app. If you go to the registry, right at the registry, by typing a button, it will bring out all the names of legal practitioners and their pictures. And we have a whole jurisprudence on this issue. The final issue I'll talk about with regard to nation building is this. Some time ago, we had a situation where our judges were violated. Their houses were broken into at night and all that. I don't want to reopen old wounds, but whatever you don't deal with multiplies. Now, we've seen the cases on those issues. No conviction has come out of it. For some of those issues, there was an apology because they were not supposed to go to the house of one of those judges. Now, this is the creme de la creme of the profession. There needs to be a conversation at the topmost level of the conversation or of the profession to ensure that those people who did those things are dealt with. Whether we like it or not, if those people are not dealt with, there is no judge who would say that in dealing with a case involving the government, that the judge will not hesitate one way or the other, knowing that, look, you may not do anything wrong, and then tomorrow your house will be invaded. So something needs to be done about it. If those people get away with this thing, it will be a major damage to the profession, and it's something that tomorrow we will regret. I think I need to stop at this point. Thank you very much.
Yes, he had to stop because I gave him a yellow card. Oh, this is Chief Mozekume. Mike, quickly, look. Not long.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief Justice, and thank you, the speakers. I just want to make one or two comments. First, let me quickly agree with Chief Wole Olanipeku, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, that the presidency of the NBA should be the symbol of the strength and gravitas of lawyers in Nigeria. During his time, and during the time of people like Alao Aka Bashorun, the fear of the Nigerian Bar Association was the beginning of wisdom. Now, governments do things with impunity because the NBA is just there like a toothless bulldog. We are not even barking at all, let alone biting. I think those people who want to take up positions within the NBA, particularly the presidency, should be ready to don the garment of what Professor De Roscoe Pound once referred to as a social engineer. That is what we should be. We should show the light, montre la lumiere, as we put it in Latin. I think that should be made very, very clear. We are tired of NBA presidents that cannot react to issues, that cannot criticize government, that cannot criticize decisions, that cannot defend the judiciary, that cannot defend judges when their houses are broken into in the wee hours of the morning, that cannot protect lawyers, that cannot protect lawyers from being abused, senior advocates being denigrated for defending clients, not because they have done anything wrong, for defending people who are themselves being prosecuted by senior lawyers of government. That is my first point. The second point is that the rank of senior advocate of Nigeria, as we have it today, to my mind, is too elitist. And I think there is the need for a liberalization before we have a spring reaction by the younger elements of the bar who are qualified but are not being given. I applied for this rank for 8 years, 2002 until I was given on the 4th of December 2009. Not because I was not qualified. I had everything it took, but they were always, for one reason or the other, denying me of that rank. Let me tell you this. There are 478 senior advocates of Nigeria enrolled today in Nigeria. If you look at the list of the first 100, about 80 to 90% of them are deceased. They have joined their ancestors. Some senior advocates do not practice at all. Some are in the business world. Some took it in those days as a chieftaincy title or award. So if you look at the number of senior advocates that are really practicing in Nigeria today, out of these 478, they are actually not up to 300 for a country of 180 million people. Now, in England, the Queen's Counsel rank was suspended or abolished in 2003. Then in 2004, they resumed it again. Guess what? In 2005, about 443 applied for it, and 175 were given in 1 year. There is another year when 107 were also given. In Nigeria, we seem to be fixated. How do lawyers apply for the rank of senior advocate? About 120 are pre-qualified after the filtration system. Then a second filtration system. About 80 are still fully qualified. And then you want to give out the rank, you are giving it to a miserly tokenism of between 15 and 25. I think that is not good enough. We should not make it too elitist. We should liberalize it. We should look at other criteria. There are some senior lawyers who are very good. A person, for example, like Judge Etomi, you will not find him in a court of law practicing in terms of advocacy. He's not in the academia, so he's not going to write books. But he's one of those that churns out
these ideas about how to focus on entrepreneurship and business. People like my good friend Dr. Ibe Kachiku, why don't we find a way of accommodating this set of people who are also gurus in their business? Thank you very much.
May I call, I'm only going to call 3 more speakers in order of seniority: Otumba Jimmy Oduba, Professor Yemi Akinseye George, and by special request, the Chief Justice says he has a right of reply. So I'm going to call Chief Jimmy Oduba first, please.
My Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, I stand on all protocol before me. I crave your indulgence, please, because I see that some preference is being given to age. I tell you, I am in my 82nd year, so please, I also deserve some preference. And what I'm going to tell you is from personal experience. First, let me congratulate the body that organized this lecture. You could not have found a better lecturer than the one that you chose. I say so because he has put in his experience as a Nigerian and what I would call the relative exposure that he has had in England. I am benefiting from that kind of double exposure because I have lived in England since 1959. I came back to Nigeria for the first time only in 1974. I left university in Nottingham in 1964. And almost by magic, I got an appointment in the Royal Courts of Justice, which appointment I retired from after 1975, when I completed my law school. As a result, I am receiving a pension regularly every month from the UK. So, after I qualified in Nigeria as a lawyer in 1975, by 1986, I had done the 10 years necessary, and I was being told to apply for silk, which I did. Lateef Fagbemi was one of the last batches that was appointed before me in my first application. But it took another 13 years before my application was granted. Out of what? I don't know. But the point that makes is that by the time I was appointed as a senior advocate, I had had enough to last me for the rest of my life. By the time I had done my 10 years, I was riding 4 bulletproof cars because at that time, Professor Kasumu, as the Attorney General for Lagos, they had the odd and even law. So for me, I needed 2. My wife needed 2. And by that time, in 1980, we were riding 4 bulletproof cars. I leave you to imagine what the cost of those cars were. Now, I am in the pool of senior advocates. The last time I went to court was in the perhaps late last century, because I don't need to. I have enough to last me.
And God has now made it almost imperative for me not to need to, because my children are now producing grandchildren from me, which I fester on in the UK. The point that makes is that as so many people have established, there is a pool of senior advocates who, either by what you have said are their earnings, they don't need your remuneration to offer their services as deputy high court judges to clear the backlog of cases that is choking up our legal system. So, as my Lord Justice Ayola has outlined, there are people who, from the reforms that were made in the UK, make it obligatory on QCs to take up appointments when appointed as deputy judges. Please let us utilize that pool. Ganifa Weyimi in his earlier days said we cannot have enough lawyers because by the time every registered company has a legal advisor, a company secretary, there is not enough work for lawyers. The same thing applies to senior advocates of Nigeria. We have a tremendous pool of them. Let us make use of them as deputy high court judges to help to clear the backlog of cases in Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Professor Yemi Akinseye, Judge, quickly speak from there in 1 minute because the lunch has gone cold and it's been reheated and we don't want to have to heat it the third time.
Okay. My Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, distinguished panelists, guest speaker, members of the body of senior advocates, ladies and gentlemen. I'm conscious of the fact that time is well spent, and I know the issues have been dealt with. The guest lecturer has done an excellent job. The Chief Justice has done an excellent job. The question I'd like us to ask is, where do we go from here? What is the strategy after this meeting? A critical issue that this body has to address is, how do we strengthen the legal system, which is in jeopardy? What is the role of the Nigerian Bar Association in protecting the judiciary? The political elite has a master plan to subjugate the legal profession, to weaken the legal profession. And when the legal profession is weakened and the rule of law is subjugated, we are all at risk. The Supreme Court has taken a bold step forward in correcting the abuse of interlocutory appeals by saying you cannot stay criminal proceedings, which has discredited the Nigerian criminal justice system and weakened the capacity of the system to bring to book big men who want to be above the law. Now, somebody said we have prioritized political cases. We have also prioritized some cases. The question is, what will the body of senior advocates do to ensure that the legal system, because sometimes we treat the judiciary as if it's subservient to the executive, as if the judiciary is subject to the other arms of government. The judiciary is an equal partner, one of the three arms of government. What would the body of senior advocates do to guide the Nigerian Bar Association to ensure that this dignity of the judiciary, of the legal profession, is not trampled upon? That is my question. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Professor Akinseye, Judge. I think your question, if you put it in proper parentheses, we cannot discuss it now for lack of time. Send it to the Continuing Legal Education Committee. I probably will make it the theme of our next lecture next year. Thank you very much. Now, finally, unfortunately, no lady raised up a hand to speak. So I'll go straight to the right of reply, which the Chief Justice of Nigeria has requested for to be given at this time. You want to do it from there?
Yes,
Very well, sir.
Thank you. Just briefly, you are not required, an applicant is not required to be a partner in a firm to be a senior advocate of Nigeria. You are to meet up the qualifications or requirements stated in the guidelines. The issue of partnership in Nigeria in the legal profession has been one of great concern. You hardly see them succeeding in this country. And it is not because of SAN or application or whatever. It is because of our own attitude or of our own lack of integrity. That is the summation of that, as far as I'm concerned. Now, you talk about getting some people who are not in advocacy to become senior advocates of Nigeria. The question is, what are we talking about? Are we not talking about advocacy? Senior advocate of Nigeria. What is he doing? He is in advocacy. You are recognizing him for his advocacy. So if he has nothing to do with advocacy, why should that be a special case? Now, to why I needed to say this is the question of Okafor and Nweke. I wrote the lead judgment in that case. I will want everybody to go back and read it. And also remember that in law, so many things come in together to make the law. When you are talking about who is a lawyer, who should endorse this and that, don't forget the fact that it is equally a principle of the Nigerian law as it regards legal personality. In the eyes of the law, a legal person is either a natural person or an artificial person recognized by law. So if you sign a document or purport to sign a document as Walter Onogin and Company, and you say that that should pass, I think you should re-examine your law. Because Walter Onogin and Company is not a legal person. It's not recognized in law as a person. So, to that extent, if you are not a legal person, how can you then authenticate or frank a document, a legal document? It's as simple as that. So, and even till now, despite the decision of the Supreme Court, people still make that mistake. So, are you above the law? It's simple and straightforward. This is the law. Obey it. If you can't obey it, pack up. As simple as there must be discipline. No, otherwise, if we create exception for firms, law firms, to frank documents like that, and then a trader or Carrefour, an enterprise, signs, and you say it is wrong. I mean, what moral right or justification do you have for that? Thank you very much.
Thank you, my Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria. May I now invite Professor Ajogu to come and make some presentations.
I know the day is fast spent, and I want to thank you for staying by. Soon we will have lunch. It is proper that we acknowledge the contributions of so many people to what we've had today. So may I respectfully invite the former Attorney General of the Federation, Judge Bola Ajibola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, to please do us the favor of stepping forward to make one of the presentations we have, and he will be doing so on his behalf and that of Professor A.B. Kasumu, SAN, as the leader of the body of senior advocates as we're constituted in this room. Please give him a round of applause as he comes forward, right in front of here. The first presentation goes to my Lord, the Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria, our chairman for the day. May I request the cameraman to be considerate of the persons behind? I'll be here.
It's a great honor to be asked to present this plaque to our Chief Justice of Nigeria. He's doing a wonderful job. He's putting all his practical experience into play so that we may have a better administration of justice in Nigeria. We are pleased to have him, and we hope that he will be in office for a long time. Congratulations. Congratulations. Putting your heart and soul in the job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So we just still need you to help us with a few more. May I now invite the guest speaker to please come forward for his presentation. And whilst that is going on, I would like to crave the indulgence of Chief Felix Fagbo-Ungbe, SAN, to join in this presentation as the chairman of the BOSAN committee. Please, sir.
I'm pleased to do the job. I am pleased to perform this service. The reason is this, that this gentleman took my place in Britain. I happen not to write so much. He happened to be a good writer and a good observant, and he's done a wonderful job. The report has come to me many times that he's doing well and acting for and on my own behalf as a good agent of Nigeria in practice. Now he's now making all the good work and all the good work in Britain to be operated over here. So he's our senior advocate of Nigeria as well as a QC. Congratulations. Congratulations. I hope you will place this one in your room. And I will keep this one to this picture in my room, which will reflect this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. May I, and we thank our former Attorney General of Federation for that wonderful gesture. May I now respectfully invite my Lord, the Honorable Justice Galinje, Justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, to help us do the next set of presentation. I don't know if Mr. Ellen Banifo is still, SAN is still here. And to assist him, our former MBA president, Chief Wale Olanikbekun, to please join him. As I now, a round of applause for him, please. I now invite our distinguished panelists and jurists, the Honorable Justice Ayola, formerly of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, to please come forward to receive your little gesture we have for you, sir.
I'm presenting the gift to. All right, all right. My Lord, on behalf of BOSAN, present to you this plaque as a show of appreciation for your contribution to today's conference. Your congratulations. It's a pleasure.
Next, may I request the distinguished first female senior advocate of Nigeria, Chief Folake Sholanke, to please come forward to receive a token of appreciation.
On behalf of the Body of Senior Advocate of Nigeria, present this plaque to you for your contribution to today's conference, and we all love you. You spoke very well, and we appreciate you. May the Lord give you long life. You continue to contribute to the upliftment of legal profession in this country. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Please, whilst you're still there, my Lord, we still need you for just one moment, just a minute more, and leader, we still need you. May I now then invite next Chief Bayo Ojo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, to step forward and receive a token of appreciation. Please bear with us. We will be having lunch in the next.
When you are talking, you should be looking at the camera also. Okay, okay.
In about 7 minutes approximately.
Well, on behalf of the Body of Senior Advocate of Nigeria, I present to you this plaque. It's a sign of appreciation for your contribution to today's lecture. And I'm happy to be involved in this presentation. I think 3 of us, were my callmate, the class of 78. You're welcome. And congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Please, whilst it's still there, the Body of Senior Advocates of Nigeria has deep appreciation for my Lord Honorable Justice Amina Oge for her heroic commitment to the administration of justice and to the ideals of BOSAN. We would then request Chief Bayo Ojo to kindly receive on her behalf our note of appreciation and token of appreciation and to be conveyed to her. I must tell you that she tried, even in her state, to come this morning, and we had to abide by the doctor's advice and object to her coming here this morning. Please, a round of applause
for... On behalf of
for...
the body of Senior Advocate of Nigeria, this plaque is presented to my Lord Honorable Justice Amina Ogi, who is unavoidably absent because of some little mishap. And I present this through you on behalf of her body of Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Present it to her, and the body wishes her quick recovery. And I know she will recover. God will take absolute control. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I now offer our thanks and appreciation to my Lord Justice Gali JSC and Chief Olani Kwekun for their kind assistance. Let me now invite the Honorable Justice Ejembi Eko JSC to please come forward to assist us with the honors to our awardees, and to be supported by and taken by surprise, as I crave your indulgence, my Lord the Honorable Justice Ogunwimuju, to please assist us and support him in this presentation. Please, a round of applause for my Lord. To the very cerebral Chief Anthony Digbe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who has represented Mr. A.B. Mahmood SAN, our MBA President, to please come forward and receive our token of appreciation. Please, a round of applause for him as he steps forward.
I have the privilege of presenting this to the President of the Nigerian Bar Association on behalf of the body of Senior Advocates of Nigeria. This plaque in acknowledgement of your role and the roles you are yet to fully appreciate, and taking into consideration the views today, we do hope you will convey the feelings of the BOSAN to the office of the President of the Nigerian Bar Association, particularly coming from the octogenarian at 86. The words of our elders are words of wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I now invite, and he will be as surprised as some of us would be. In everything, there are those who behind the scenes do a lot of the work and ought to be acknowledged for making this day and this conference possible. Chief Felix Fagbongbe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, to please step forward and receive a token of appreciation for his leadership and support in getting the Chief Justice of Nigeria to be here and doing so many more things.
On behalf of the body of Senior Advocates of Nigeria and the visible evidence of your success in organizing this conference, I present this plaque to you. And we commend your efforts for bringing this maiden edition of lecture of the Senior Advocates of Nigeria. It's been a wonderful time. Congratulations.
Thank you. Whilst my Lord is still there, let me invite the Secretary of the body, Mr. Sheyi Showemimo, to please come forward. We'd like to appreciate him for his strong support, hard work, all through the weekends and late to see that this came to fruition. Please, a round of applause for Mr. Sheyi Showemimo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
For being an eminent and hardworking and result-oriented secretary. We congratulate you for all your hard work in respect of BOSAN, particularly in respect of this occasion. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Whilst my lords are still there, the last, but by no means the least, we would like to thank Chief Adewumi Ogunsanya, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for his support as a member of the committee and in so sponsoring this event. Please, a round of applause for him as he comes forward to receive a little token of appreciation. And with that,
the BOSAN and all of us here want to thank you for your financial support for the association, and we hope for continued support. I'm speaking now on behalf of BOSAN. Yeah, for your continued support, and that your magnanimity and generosity will bring a spring well of generosity from other members of BOSAN to continue to support the programs of the association. Congratulations.
thank you very much, my Lords Justice Ejembi Eko and my Lord Honorable Justice Ogumiju. We're indeed most grateful. Thank you. Just before I invite Mr. Onadeko to come and give a note of appreciation, I would like to thank the Honorable Chief Judge of Ekiti State, Justice Daramola, who was here so very early, one of the first persons to come here, and the Honorable Attorney General of Lagos State, Adeni Kazim. Please, Mr. Onadeko, it will be your turn. Thank you.
All right. After the note of appreciation, we're going to have photographs of the Chief Justice of Nigeria and the discussants and other members of the committee. So please.
Thank you very much for a day that has been well spent. The chairman, Honorable Justice Walter Onoge, Chief Justice of Nigeria, my lords, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, my job is to say a word of appreciation to all for your presence and support today, and I'll do that as quickly as I can. Let me start with the chairman, who has taken pains to be here from Abuja to be with us today. We thank you, my Lord, for your presence, and we wish you a safe journey back home. Then to our guest speaker, Professor Fidelis Udita, QC, SAN, can we have some quiet at the back, please? The dining should be in silence. Thank you very much, Fidelis, for being here and for making the lecture as interesting as you have, taking us through the history, comparative analysis of UK and Nigeria, and of course for the issue on how to address female judges of superior courts. Then to our panel of discussants, Honorable Justice Olayinka Ayola, Chief Mrs. Folake Solanke, Chief Bayo Ujo, and Anthony Idigbe, SCN, who represented the president of the NBA. We say a big thank you to you all and wish you a safe journey back home. Then, of course, to our elders in the body of senior advocates of Nigeria, Prince Bola Ajibola, SAN, and Professor Ibi Kasumu. We thank you very much, sirs, for being here and for taking part in the activities of today. Let me also thank their lordships, Justices Paul Galinje and Ejembi Eko, my good friend and classmate, for being here, and also Justice Ogun Wubinju of the Court of Appeal, as well as the CJ of Ekiti State, Justice Daramola. We thank you all for being here with us today. Then to our chairman, Chief Fagbungbe, who has been recognized. Thank you very much, sir, for your support at all times. We appreciate everything you've done. There is a long list of people who have supported us. Colleagues, I thank you all very much for being here. We certainly will see you next year again when the second edition of this event holds. I cannot end without reference to our committee, the planning committee, headed by Fabian Ajogu, SAN, Professor Ajogu. Thank you very much, Fabian, for your leadership. And to other members, I say a big word of appreciation to you. Thank you very much. To our colleagues generally, senior advocates, thanks for the support. It's been a pleasant day, and your turnout has been most impressive. We thank you very much. To the press, thank you for being here. And lastly, Secretariat of the Body of Senior Advocates, the able officials there, I thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Larry Onodeko. We're going to have pictures now. And may I ask that the Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria and all the discussants, the guest lecturer and all the discussants, please line up in front of the podium. Who? Oh yeah, Benny. Efile. Chief Fagbongbe, can you please join in this photograph? Chief Felix Fagbongbe, please, can you join in this photograph quickly? Professor Fabian Ajogu. Professor Ajogu. Professor Ajogu, Fabian, where are you? Please join in. This end. Professor Professor Adedeji, join in. Professor Kunle Adedeji. May I have the Supreme Court Justices please join the Chief Justice, Justice Galinje and Justice Ejembieko, please join the Chief Justice of Nigeria to take a photograph. Yes. Quickly join in the photographs, please. With the discussants, please join them. Chibayo Ojo, join them. Ms. Bimbakere Dolu, you are wanted here, please. Yes. Come and give the closing remarks, please.
Please permit me to rest on existing protocols, my lords. All the gratitudes have been given, and the event is coming to a close. A most enjoyable event, and it's a bittersweet task to be closing the session. However, your presence has made it invaluable, and without any doubt has helped to make the event a great success. I make bold to say that the tone has been set by this lecture for future lectures, and I'm sure that I'm not mistaken when I predict that a very high standard has been set for future lectures. We have beamed the searchlight of hard truths on the bar, the bench, and the members of our prestigious rank, the BOSAN. Please, we do not want this to just be a talking session. Kindly provide feedback to the BOSAN on what you think we can do better. The intention is to progress this discussion, the lecture, from discussions to action, concrete action, by way of constant engagement. That way, the attendance, your time spent here today would not have been wasted, and the event will indeed be a success in truth and in fact. I thank you very much once again for coming. God bless you. God bless the body of senior advocates of Nigeria. God bless Nigeria. Thank you very much.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Mrs. Abimbola Akeredolu, SAN. Round of applause. And yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I will say that congratulations for reaching this important point of making history at this momentous maiden edition of the annual lecture of the Body of Senior Advocates of Nigeria. Lunch is served. Please kindly note that the table to the left is to be restricted primarily for members of the high table and the panelists, and there's a lot more to eat, lots to drink. Thank you very much, and have a pleasant afternoon.